hold the router at just the right spot and take off a paper thin piece of wood at a time. Leave approximately 1/16 of an inch to 1/32 of an inch in between your groove and the outside edge. Because later on we're going to chamfer this outside edge at an angle to blend the top and the back. Slowly shave out a very thin slice of wood. Remember, when you're working with the scroll, work small, work carefully, and work precisely. I have now completed setting the grooves around the scroll. Next I will be cutting out the peg box. You have to transfer the shape of the peg box to the side of the neck to use as a guide. The bottom of the inside of the peg box is approximately 4 millimeters smaller than the top of the inside. That is to allow a taper to go down inside the peg box, thereby strengthening the sides of the peg box and allowing a little bit more material for the pegs to grip on. As far as the scroll work, it's important to maintain your center line ridge on the top of the scroll, because you'll be using that later when you set the angle of the neck and align it to the center line. Here I have marked the area of the peg box inside. Remember, with the fluting on the bottom, you've already reduced that surface in the bottom of the peg box, and you do not wish to break through it. Once I have the depth carved, then I will start paring on the sides with very thin slices of material. When carving, I take and score along the line that I previously marked on each side of the peg box. You must have very sharp tools for this, and stop often and resharpen your tools as you need to. One thing to remember when sharpening your tools is do not sharpen your tools in the same area that you're working on a musical instrument. Otherwise the metal shavings will actually contaminate your work surface, and you will inadvertently get it into your work. I will use a 1/4 inch wide flat chisel to start removing along the center line. I use 2 different types of 1/4 inch flat chisels, but one of them has a double bevel, meaning this area is the sole and this is the top of the bevel. The top of the bevel angle is changed by about 3 degrees to relieve that first portion. And when carving inside of the peg box, that allows the material to roll away from the chisel as I pare it away. It doesn't roll away as fast, but it reduces the angle and allows the curl to tighten. The scoring along each side of the peg box prevents chip out of the top of the peg box sides. And this is that tighter curl I was talking about with a double bevel. After I've dug out about the first eighth of an inch of material, I stop just before the last peg hole, because I do not want to break the area above that hole, and I will put a score in that area inside here, and then I will take and score along the side of the peg box where I have cut. Not a very deep score, but deep enough to break the grain of the wood and the fibers so that it'll release easier. I use the double beveled skew right on the end so that I can really go down at a good angle and start to pick up that rear of peg box angle that I have to have. Once you get past the transition point of the first peg, you can switch your chisel and continue with your paring operation. Sometimes wiggling the chisel, twisting it a little bit, will allow you to go through fairly easy, because you're going to be taking most of the material on the sides off anyway, so you don't have to worry about damaging too much. You just don't want to push all the way through, hit the scroll, and knock the whole end of the scroll off. My best advice to you while doing this is to get yourself comfortable, because you'll be here for about a half hour taking care of this peg box. Take your time, work accurately, and work safely. Here I have the inside gouged out enough to where I can measure from the curvature on the top of the scroll to where I want the bottom to be in the peg box. Remember, this line is just above the fluting, so I would like half of this material, approximately right there, to be removed. I will also start paring off the sides of the inside of the peg box. That will give me a little bit more room to work down in the bottom of the peg box. Here you can see I've got the peg box shaped and carved out, and I'm ready to start doing the cleanup work inside. My next consideration will be the fingerboard, but ebony is expensive, so you're going to have to determine what you'd like to do. A 2x2 block of ebony comes coated completely in wax. It is a 2x2 turning blank, and it is just the right size to be able to make fingerboards. This is a completed fingerboard, and as you can see, it just fits. I take and slice it with a bandsaw, making sure that the grain orientation is vertical. Grain pattern on fingerboards has to be very tight, because the strings will actually dig in if the grain pattern is not tight. And if you have the grain oriented the wrong way, you'll actually get little grooves in the fingerboard, and it will require resurfacing or replacement of the fingerboard at a later date.